Howdy! Welcome to Faith of a Child Box videos, helping your family become saints together. Today, I'm going to be showing you our Saint Therese Peg Doll paint along. So I hope you guys are ready to paint along with me. So what you need from your box is paints, paintbrush, and your female peg doll. From home, you probably want a paper towel, a container with water, and you want to wear an apron or a paint shirt. This is acrylic paint, and so it will wash off of your skin, it will wash off of hard surfaces, but it is very, very hard to get off of fabric if you can get it off at all. So I highly suggest you wear something over your clothes so that it doesn't get stained. So make sure you have all of those things, and then we're gonna go ahead and paint Saint Therese. Now these are 3 examples that I've already painted. I did this one and this one, and Little Bird, my 6-year-old, painted this one, and so I think she's just adorable. So if you are planning on painting this yourself, go ahead and let your child try to paint it. For your 4 and 5-year-olds, you might want to outline the areas and have them paint in the bulk when we have the areas where they paint a lot, and maybe you do the detail work. But let them be involved in this process so they can really own these peg dolls, so that they feel more like they are something of their own that they made with their own 2 hands. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with Saint Therese's veil. I like to start with their heads. So we're going to get a little bit of our black paint here on our brush. And I'm going to choose, this is going to be her face right here. And so I'm going to find the middle of the top of her head and make a little line across. Okay. And then I'm going to turn to the side and draw that line down to the end of the head portion. Then I'm going to come back to our other side and do the exact same thing. So I made my spot on the middle. I drew my line down each side. And so now we can go ahead and fill in the whole back of her head with paint, with the black paint. Okay, so now we've got the back of her head painted. Now we're gonna finish off her veil. Goes about halfway down her back. So we're gonna find the middle of her head again and find about halfway down her back and make a little line there. Oh, I didn't have enough paint. I'm gonna get a little more paint to make that line across here, across her back. Okay? So now turn to one side and you're gonna find where your black portion ended at the bottom of her head here, and you're just going to pull that line down and keep it going. Okay, so what you want to do is pull that line down a little and then pull this line over a little until you get to the point where they meet, and you can make it a sharp corner, you can make it a rounded corner, whichever way you feel like, or whichever way kind of happens when you're painting. And then you're going to come over here and do the same thing. You take the spot where the black for her veil ended, pull that line straight down here, and then you're gonna come here and make this line a little longer until they meet. So now you have the outline of the back of her veil, and then we'll go ahead and fill it in. Alright, so now we've filled in her whole veil. And with acrylic paint, you don't want to use too much paint at a time because you don't want it to be too clumped on here. If you get it with just kind of a fine layer, it will dry pretty quickly. But you do have to give it a few minutes to dry. So one thing I like to do is kind of jump around in which parts of the saint I am doing. so that I can not have to stop and pause. I can keep going. And so we're gonna clean the black off of our paintbrush and close that pot up. And we are actually going to do her face next. And it seems a little bit silly here that we are basically painting the same color on top of the wood. But the reason I do this is because when you have the blank wood, if you want to seal it, it does not work as well. It takes a lot more layers of sealant to seal blank wood than the painted wood. So I do go ahead and paint every inch of these dolls just to help seal it better, because we really like to seal the dolls in my house. So you're going to take this skin tone and it's going to cover the whole rest of her head here. And you want to make sure that this part up here is already dry, so you can see this is a matte color now. So it's dry. There's a few spots down here, if you can see them, I hope you can, that are a little more shiny. And that tells me that those are still wet. You can also see it in what I just painted. I hope you guys can see that shiny there. So we want to make sure we can see what's dry. Okay, so now I've got it all painted in, and I am done with this color. So I'm going to go ahead and clean off my paintbrush. And next, I'm going to double check that my black veil, the edges here, have dried, and so the very edges are all that matte color. So next I'm going to do the white, I call it the cape, that goes over her habit. And so we're going to need our white paint. And I do make sure I close the colors so I don't knock them over and spill the paint. So we are going to start by finding the middle of her chin. We have the middle of her chin here. And you're going to make a little curve here that goes, probably in your way here, a little curve that goes out here just next to her, the bottom of her veil. So you can watch here, curve here that goes out to the bottom of her veil. Okay, and then you're just going to, kind of right in front of her veil, make a line down to the bottom. And you have one side of her cape outlined. If there's a proper term for that, someone let me know. And then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side, and this one's a little more challenging because I am right-handed. So we're gonna make the same kind of curve. You can start up at the top or down at the bottom, and pull it all the way down. And then before I fill this in, I did add a little straight line kind of going across here between, I don't think you can see it on these, between the edges of her capes. And this is the to kind of show the neck of the habit, the white part that is visible. You can see it in the pictures of her. So then we're just going to fill in. Right, and then I like to also bring the paint down here. And this is, again, I like to cover every inch of the wood. You don't have to do this part, but I'm going to. So I'm going to show you. And I just do the part which is under where the white is. I think Little Bird, she did the whole thing down here white, the whole base. And that is her choice, and it looks adorable. So however you want to, I do suggest you paint the very bottom circle here white so that you can put the date of her feast day on here. This is a feature I put on all of my pig dolls, so it's easier to write their feast days on. So you can keep track of their feast days a little bit easier. There are just so many awesome saints I forget when their feasts are. Okay, so now we have all of our white paint here done. So I'm going to go and wash off my paint brush again. And the next thing I'm going to do on her body is going to be the brown for her habit. And so I actually need to let that dry. I need to let her, the cape dry before I get to her habit. So we are going to go and work on her face a little bit so that we can keep moving and not have to pause. So we're going to go ahead next and do her eyes. So first you want to make sure your paintbrush has a nice tip on it. So smooth it out here. If you need to get it a little more wet to smooth it, that's totally cool. That's a perfect way to do it. And you're only going to get paint on the very edge of your paintbrush here to do this, to get these nice fine lines. And they can be thicker, but for her eyes, we're going to do these little curves, and then her eyelashes. This is actually a feature that Little Bird asked me to add when we were doing our first test dolls, and I think it just turned out so cute that I kept it. And so we're going to do her little eyes here. I'm going to get the black paint. So she's kind of got just closed eyes with her smile. So we get paint just a little bit on the edge of our paintbrush. You can start with whichever eye you want. I'm going to start over here and just make a little curve here for her eye. And then you want to add her 2 little eyelashes there, or 3, I think. See, yeah, Little Bird put 3 on her eye, and it works just fine. It can be however you want. You can personalize these however you like. They turn out really cute no matter what. And you're going to do the exact same thing on this side and give her 2 little eyelashes over here. Awesome. Okay, so now I have her eyes done. I'm going to check my white. It's still a little wet, so I'm going to keep going. We're actually going to just do something to prep for some of the next parts here. So if you notice here, St. Therese is holding a cross, and these are the roses. And her roses, I think it's easiest to tell in Little Birds, are pink. And you will see you don't have a pink paint. But that's okay, because acrylic paint you can mix to make new colors. So you're going to mix your red and your white. And I actually did this right in the top of my paint pots here, and you can actually see I used this for a different one of my St. Therese's earlier, yesterday when I was practicing. And so you can kind of see the pink already. So what you're going to do is you can use the tip or the bottom of your paintbrush, and you're going to pick up some of this red paint and put it up here. Whoop, I'm going to wipe it off your paintbrush here. And get a fair amount and lift it up and put it in here. Okay? And then I'm going to get everything I can off the end and wipe off my paintbrush. And I like to use the back just because it's easier to clean off and get all of it off. But this part, the bristles also work fine. I've done it that way. You can get your white. And if you want really light pink, you're gonna add a lot of white. If you don't want it to be so light, you can add a little less white. I think this one I did a pretty dark pink on her. I didn't add very much white, but I'm gonna go for a really light pink this time. I'm gonna mix it up here and see what color this gets. I want it to be a little bit lighter than that, so I'm gonna keep adding some more white here. A little more, and I'm getting a little bit of red in my white, so you want to try to avoid that because you will need this same paint set for your St. Gaspar later in the month. Oh, that's a really light pink there, so I really like that, and I'm going to keep that one, and I'm going to go ahead and show you. Oh no, my white is dry, and I've gotten white that was on my hands onto her veil. So maybe she got it dirty while she was cleaning. Yeah. So next, I'm gonna leave this. I am gonna leave the red open because the pink will kind of spread down into the red pot, which it's totally fine if it does that. We only use the red for her smile, and on St. Gaspar we only use it for his smiles. So if their smiles are a little red, a little more pink than red, it'll work fine. Okay, so now we're gonna do her brown habit. It's just the whole rest of her front here. We're gonna paint it brown. Right, so now her brown habit is done and we need to wait for that to dry. So we're gonna go ahead and finish her face while that dries. And when we do this, I'm gonna show you one of my secrets for painting pig dolls. So first we're gonna do her smile. I do generally do the smile before I do the cheeks. And again, you're just gonna make a little curve here, kind of a U shape, and it can be small, it can be big. She has a giant smile up in heaven watching all of us. And so any way you want to do it. And so we're gonna grab our red, just get a little bit on the tip. You don't wanna press too hard. And you're gonna make her little smile. And you can notice here, this turned out perfectly. On this side that I started on, I have a sharp line, and on this side it kind of fades off. So if you want sharp edges on both sides, just kind of start this side again, and I just kind of start it and pull it down. And that kind of gives you a sharper line on both sides. This one didn't turn out perfect, but again, she is perfectly imperfect. Okay, so her little smile is done there. Then we are going to do her rosy cheeks. She's been outside in the sun working in the garden. And for her rosy cheeks, we're gonna use our pink. And you're gonna use the back of your paintbrush. I don't know if you knew, but the back of your paintbrush can be used to paint also. So you're gonna just dip the back of the paintbrush in and come over here and make a dot. And if you want a little bigger, you can kind of move it in a circle, and you have the little dot for her rosy cheek. And you're gonna do the other side. And now she has her nice rosy cheeks. And I am leaving this red open still because I want to use the pink again for flowers. And my brown is not quite dry, so I'm gonna blow on it a little, see if I can get it to dry. You don't want to paint over your acrylic paint while it's still wet, because it will mix the colors. But once it dries, it paints over well. I wouldn't paint over the black with many colors, but you can see like the white shows up fine. I got a drop of pink on top of it, and you can see it very clearly. But generally I don't paint on top of black. So I think this spot here is dry enough. I would wait for yours. I would pause the video and wait till it's completely dry if you made your habit a little bit thicker paint. The next thing we're gonna do is paint her cross. She's generally often depicted carrying a cross or a crucifix with her flowers, and so we're doing it as a cross just to make it simpler, and because I do try to keep these pretty basic so kids can paint them. So we're just gonna draw a cross here. I have ended up with a pretty thick stately cross there, and that looks awesome. So I am very happy with how that looks. And now I'm going to have to pause. We have to pause and let that cross dry before we can do the flowers, or you're gonna get black flowers. That's not really the look we're going for here. All right, so my crucifix is dry now, and so I hope yours is too. And I generally try not to do two different colors right next to each other so I don't have to pause, but that just ended up being the best way to do it for St. Therese. But now we're going to do her flowers, and this is the last step. And there's several different ways you could do her flowers. You can do them with the tip of the paintbrush and just kind of draw in circles, like swirlies, kind of. I'm going to do that. You can use the back of your paintbrush and just do dots. And more. If you don't get your paint mixed all the way here, and can give it some texture. You can just do dots with the tip of your paintbrush down here. Or if you don't feel like going fancy, you can just kind of draw in a pink, a little triangle curve here to represent the flowers. And if you really feel fancy, you can try to add in some other colors. I'm gonna add some red into this one and give it some good texture there. And make it look a little more realistic. Or if you just want this plain triangle, because it's a little easier to do, then that is perfect. You will know that those are her flowers and that she is her roses, as she promised to send out a shower of roses from heaven. So that is your St. Therese of Lisieux peg doll for her feast on October 1st. And there is one more step I like to do. Like I said before, I like to write their feast date on the bottom, just to help me remember as the kids are playing. If they have a new favorite saint, I can kind of just grab the peg doll and look to see if their feast is coming up, and just to remember when that is so we can celebrate their feast days throughout the year. And so there's lots of different ways to do this. This one I actually wrote with just a plain ballpoint pen. Let's see, this one I did with this kind of more of a gel pen kind of. You can use a Sharpie. I haven't written on this one first yet, so I'll use thin Sharpies or thick Sharpie. And then if you're really good, I'm going to attempt this for y'all. And I'm going to use the pink because it's still open. You can use your paintbrush and use that to write. I tell you, I'm not so good with this one. I generally don't do this, but just to demonstrate. I'm gonna write small because there we go. There we go, it's cute. So now I have her feast day on there just to help me remember when that is. And so we're gonna let her dry and let the paint on the bottom dry too. And in our family, we like to seal our peg dolls. We have a huge set of somewhere, probably around 100 of them, just hanging out around the house. And so in order to make them last a little longer, we do seal them. And there's two options that are pretty popular. This is probably the most common one, the Mod Podge. This is matte. You can also use the gloss to give them a shiny look. And this is available at, this one's from Hobby Lobby. You can get them at Michael's or Walmart, anywhere you can find basic craft supplies. But this one is my actually favorite. I found out about in a peg doll group I'm in. It's Minwax. It's water-based polyacrylic, the clear gloss. And I bought this at Walmart, and I'm still using the first bottle I bought, which has sealed probably somewhere near 100 peg dolls. We love peg dolls in our family. And so this will last you a long time. You can use a regular paintbrush. With either option, you can use a regular paintbrush, a foam brush, or our preferred method is just to dip the dolls straight in and let them dry. And we actually kind of hang them up to dry with screws in the bottom. And it sounds really silly, but it works the best. I think we think it's the easiest way to do it when we do the quantity that we do in our house. But this one, did I say it's available at Walmart? It is. And so this is my favorite. So please let me know if you have any questions about how to paint St. Therese or sealing the dolls or anything else. And we will see you next time.